In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. It's podcasting time!
Miserable.
Yeah, I warned Harry that was about to happen.
You didn't warn me enough.
I didn't warn you enough?
Yeah. That's the best you could do.
The other option was, podcast on!
I feel like...
Neither are good.
I know I'm on the spot here, but you spend some time with that. There's got to be...
I thought about it for a solid 10 to 15 seconds. That was the best I could do.
Okay. Well, I don't have an alternative, so let's
just roll with it.
It's podcasting time.
It's podcasting time. Yeah.
Okay.
So, we're talking about Fantastic Four.
Yeah, we are.
And we is me, Sam Gasch, and Harry Valentine.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in, Harry.
Of course, man. I love Fantastic Four. I want everyone to love Fantastic Four as much as I love Fantastic Four.
Well, in order for us to love Fantastic Four as much as you do, first we have to know a little bit about you. Why don't you talk a little bit about yourself?
Oh, I wasn't prepared for this part. I was only prepared to talk about Fantastic Four. Yeah, so I am... my name's Harry Valentine.
Good start.
I'm a writer and an actor and do a lot of improv. I read a fair amount of comics. I learned
Have you always been a comic book reader?
Yeah, well, so that's what... You know, I almost said this with the Stan Lee stuff. I almost made like a Facebook post, but then it felt weirdly about me. But like, when Stan Lee died, what I wanted to write was that it's because of his comics. Like, my parents taught me to read. Fantastic Four and Daredevil and the Hulk taught me to love to read.
Oh,
like, that was when I was in
So you've been a comic book reader since you were a small child.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, as I was reading, probably I started, like, flipping through not knowing all the words I was reading when I was younger than kindergarten. And then, but really, like, me loving to read came from how exciting comic books were to me as a kid. Like, they were like a treat. If I was sick or like as a kid, I'd get special treatment. I'd get a soda and a comic book or something. I mean,
that's adorable.
Yeah, no, it was super cute.
And but for some reason in my head, it's always like comic books are like an older brother got you into it, but were you the older brother that got younger siblings into it?
So I'm the youngest of three brothers. But what really happened is I liked them. You know, when we were younger, they were still at grocery stores, so you could like kind of pick them up casually. I got really into comics in a collecting kind of way. When my dad turned like late 40s, he had his midlife crisis was collecting comic books.
That's an amazing midlife crisis.
And he had three boys, and we would go to the flea market, J&J Flea Market in Georgia, and we would pick up comics. There was like a comic shop run by these guys, John and Gerald, and they would sell, like, if you wanted to buy comic books, it was, you know, like sorted ones, numbered ones that would fit well in your collection. It would be a few dollars, but they had like bulk boxes you could sift through and get 15-cent comics. So I would bring home stacks and stacks of comic books. Yeah. And that was when I started to really just be kind of surrounded by them. I
mean, that's kind of amazing. What a great midlife crisis.
Yeah, no, it worked out for me.
Yeah,
that it wasn't like a motorcycle or...
I mean, my dad's midlife crisis is taking me whitewater rafting and ziplining, so I certainly don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's working out for all of us.
I never really got into, like, comic book comics. When I was a kid, I read comics, but, like, newspaper comics. So I had Calvin and Hobbes collections, like Foxtrot, Garfield, books and books of those, and those were the comics I read. Weirdly enough, my sister was more into comics because she had a bunch of, like, Archie books.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And so I would read those as well, because when she was done, I would read them. But I never really got into comic books until college. And when the Watchmen movie came out, I was like, I can't go see this movie until I read the comic book first.
Sure. Smart.
And I remember one of the bookstores on campus was selling it. So I just bought it and like sat down to read it. Well, it's hard to sit down and just to read Watchmen, but in general. Yeah. And then I was like, all right, well, I got to read Watchmen. I got to read Sandman. And turns out the school library had Sandman.
Libraries
all
are
of it.
Great for comics.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. Like, libraries in LA will have, like, the big bound copies of it. Oh, yeah. And then after that, it was just my friend Claire would be like, okay, you liked that? Read these.
Oh, cool.
And she's always been kind of like...
You had a guide. It's so good to have a guide.
Oh, man. That was so important for me.
Yeah.
Like, I read Red Sun because of that.
Oh,
I
nice.
read the one where it's in the future and Superman comes back because this other, like, hegemon killed the Joker.
No, I don't know.
It's Justice League something.
I have really minimal DC involvement.
You've always been a Marvel guy?
More Marvel guy. I mean, Green Lantern was one of my like major comics growing up, and I always liked Batman the character, but more in the movies and the animated series. Mm-hmm. But I didn't like earnestly dig into Superman comics until like 2 years ago.
That's fair.
Have
you gone back and read like Red Sun, which is kind of like the one that everyone says this is the best one?
Yeah, I haven't. I've read like John Byrne does a really good run. I've read, and Grant Morrison did a really good run. I read, but mostly, I mean, and this will circle back. Well, this will matter really directly to Fantastic Four. There is a pretty stark difference between the types of stories. Type of superheroes you get from Marvel and DC.
Absolutely.
And that pattern was set with Fantastic Four.
So when you were growing up, was Fantastic Four one of the comics that you would go looking for in the 15-cent boxes?
Comic.
It was the comic.
Yeah.
So is Fantastic... So you were really only reading Fantastic Four, or you were also reading
Fantastic
Spider-Man?
Four was like... So like, before my dad had his comic book influence, my brothers and I each had like our titles. Or if you go to the grocery store...
Sure.
And you see a new Superman comic, he'd pick
what are
it
your
up
brothers'
for
names?
my brother Sam, my brother Tommy.
Okay, so Sam would buy X-Men, Tommy would buy Spider-Man, you would buy Fantastic Four, something like that?
Sam would buy Superman, Tommy would buy Spider-Man, and I would get Fantastic Four.
Okay.
That was the setup. Once I started reading more, Green Lantern, Hulk, Daredevil, those started to enter, but like Fantastic Four was the primary, and it kind of always has been. I've left it, I've come back to it, but it's the...
And so the reason why you wanted to talk about Fantastic Four today is because there's never been a good Fantastic Four movie.
They've never nailed it. The closest they came was The Incredibles.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Really, Did you see Incredibles 2?
I haven't, no.
I recommend it. It's super fun and delightful.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've gotten close. They've, like, with the other movies, they've often had all the ingredients to make a good movie and just haven't been able to nail it. And I have a few reasons why, but they're an overwhelming number of reasons.
Well, when we were sitting down to kind of create the idea for this podcast, I said, which Fantastic Four movie should I watch? And you suggested Silver Surfer.
Yeah, Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Not even the origin story for Fantastic Four, just the sequel, which I remember enjoying more than I enjoyed the first one.
Yeah, it's a little better. And the main thing for me is the reason Fantastic Four comics are great across the board has to do with the fact that they fight monsters.
Good, I like
it.
They
fight big, scary monsters all the time. Kaiju-style monsters. They fight... It's most of their rogues gallery. And so I sent you a video.
Yeah.
I just went to a comic shop last night, pulled the F-box out, and was flipping through Fantastic Fours and pulling them. Almost everyone I showed you... The villain there was a monster.
Right. Well, I went through a list of the Fantastic Four Rogues Gallery.
Yeah.
And I pulled up some of the people that I was like, these are probably the big ones.
Yeah.
But apparently one of the big Fantastic Four villains is Mole Man.
Mole Man was the very first Fantastic Four villain.
And apparently he's like the first Marvel villain.
So, Fantastic Four was the first Marvel superhero comic.
Okay.
And literally, when I talk about monsters, Mole Man... So he's like a disgraced scientist. He believes the Earth is hollow.
Yeah.
And then he falls into a cave, and so he comes to control...
he has an army of moloids.
Right, the moloids, and also, literally, he's ruler of a place called Monster Isle. That's his thing. And so
I love it.
And so one of the frustrations with the other movies, why Rise of the Silver Surfer is a good example of especially having all the tools, is they don't use Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is an iconic Fantastic Four villain, but he's not your typical Fantastic Four villain. Mm-hmm. So when you're trying to make a Fantastic Four movie that really gets Fantastic Four, you don't use Doctor Doom.
No.
Like they used in the Corman one, in the 2005 one.
They've used him in every single one.
Yeah, and he even was in the Silver Surfer one. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Because what I remember, the scene that I honestly remember most from Rise of the Silver Surfer, because I watched it on YouTube, wasn't even a scene that I particularly saw in this version. What I remember is I remember Doctor Doom getting the Silver Surfer's surfboard and literally going and offering himself as, let me be your new herald to Galactus. And that scene's not in the movie, or not in the cut that I saw.
I don't remember that. I wonder if that was like an extended version or something.
Probably. But what I find interesting, and my kind of interesting connection to Silver Surfer, is that's the first movie that I ever saw anywhere on Blu-ray.
Oh.
I remember being in a Best Buy or a Target with my parents for some reason, and I remember seeing this movie as the Blu-ray they were showing, because this movie came out right about the time Blu-rays were happening. And I remember looking at it and going, that looks so fake.
Oh, yeah.
You can clearly tell which part is the people and which part is the green screen background.
Yeah, there are parts where it's like lit very differently.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
But, so let's ignore some of the other movies, because one of the things I like about this movie is it's not an origin story.
Right.
Because frankly, I don't care how the Fantastic Four got their superpowers.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit silly.
Yeah.
It's very Silver Age.
It is.
Which is wonderful, especially if they're going to be fighting Annihilus.
Oh, Annihilus is great.
Or Wizard.
Okay.
Wizard is not great.
I don't have any particular attraction to Wizard. No, Annihilus is super cool.
The other one I wrote down was Diablo.
Diablo's a thing.
We kind of are at a point in popular culture where you don't need the origin story. If you want to know how they got their superpowers, that's what Wikipedia is for. And I liked that about Silver Surfer. I liked that they were just kind of an established group, and you kind of understood their dynamic. Mm-hmm. The sexism and toxic masculinity in this movie are real and terrible.
Both Tim Story movies and the Roger Corman movie. I know we're specifically focused on Rise of the Silver Surfer, but it's like... And, to be fair... This comic started in 1961. Most of the iconic storylines are between 61 and 80, and the comics are sexist and patriarchal.
Yeah.
Like, Sue is hectoring, and she's not sure if she wants to fight, and she wants to get married and have kids, and she's always, like, needling everyone. And so that's why when I say they've never nailed the movie, there have been very, very rarely have they been able to nail every part of what makes Fantastic Four great, even in a single comic book.
Right.
That's why we need a movie like this.
Yeah, I agree.
That can take the best ingredients.
Well, the one thing that I thought that they did right eventually, because even in Rise of the Silver Surfer, it's group dynamic, group dynamic, group dynamic, group dynamic. Oh, I guess we should get to the plot.
Yeah. They
don't go and try to interact with the Silver Surfer until 55 minutes into the movie.
Right. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, I remember that it's like... They do a bachelor party scene.
Which is terrible.
They do, like, a weird plane gag at the opening.
Which is weird.
And none of it...
Like, they establish, hey, these people are super duper famous. Mm-hmm. Cool. And then the next thing that happens is, we don't have room for you in first class, we're going to stick you in coach. That's cool with you super duper famous people, right?
Right.
No.
And also, they have a Fantasticar. They use it later in the same movie.
It was the first time that they got to the toy tie-in.
They are the whole. He's an inventor. They have resources. They don't need to fly in a commercial. Whatever. None of that's important. What's important is that Tim Story was very focused on the comedy elements of it.
Yes.
And then would be like, all right, let's do some action stuff. And
I agree with that a little bit. I also think you should focus on the comedy of it. Because the other thing I thought that they did eventually was, I think Sue Storm should kind of be the main character.
Yep.
Everyone else is kind of like the goofy... Everyone else is goofy in some way, but she's kind of the person who like brings them all together and says, okay, here's what we do.
So here's a cool thing about reading the comics is the first 300-something episodes of the comics, issues of the comics, there are no retcons. There's no moving backwards. It's all told as a continuous story.
Okay.
But what's cool about it is they're written from the 60s through the 80s, so they're...
Are they aging?
No, Stan Lee has this whole thing about the illusion of change. Uh-huh. So he writes that, like, time works a little differently in the Marvel Universe, and so... Well, what's cool is you get kind of the same characters, but they're reflective of the times that they're written in. So Sue Storm, as it goes, moves from being the least powerful, least important member of the Fantastic Four to not their like strategist in battle. That still gets to be Reed.
Clearly the most powerful.
She becomes the most powerful and the most important character to the group.
Good.
Because of shedding some of that 1960s toxicity.
Well, yeah, because what you want to do is you want to avoid what I'll call a Jean Grey scenario. She's the most powerful one, but basically Cyclops spends the entire time protecting her, and as soon as she's hurt, they like, no, Jean's hurt, we gotta get out of here.
Right, yeah.
And you want Sue Storm to be the person going, no, here's what we do.
Right. Yeah.
Because theoretically, Reed Richards is the strategist. He's the genius one, but and then I guess the Thing, Ben Grimm.
Yeah.
I have it. I wanted to call him...
You're thinking Hank McCoy?
I was thinking Hank McCoy, Hank Pym. It like all got confused. Yeah. And he's kind of their tank, but like if you want like precision work, it's the Invisible Woman.
Yeah, it's Invisible Woman for sure.
She can do like she literally says in the movie, "I bet you didn't know that I could do a force field inside your body and stop you from breathing."
Yeah. Oh, she's badass.
And she can she literally made a piece of herself disappear, and she's like, all right, well, all I gotta do is focus on this, and for the next 8 hours, no problem. And she does.
Yeah.
She catches Reed Richards just in a force field, and there's nothing he can do. I have the same thing about Violet in The Incredibles. She's incredibly powerful. Like, I mean, it's the same power set, invisibility and force fields, and that's huge.
Well, yeah, and when she started, she was just invisible. She's an invisible girl, first of all.
Sure.
And all she could do was turn herself invisible. And originally, she couldn't even turn her clothes invisible, and there was, she had to get naked stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of,
They have that moment in this movie, too. Why does this always happen to me? And you're like, it's because it's male-gazy, and it's a problem?
Yeah, that's exactly why. Because this movie was written, and it isn't life.
Yeah.
And it was written by men and directed by men, and whatever.
Chris Evans, Johnny's behavior in this movie is a problem, too.
Yeah.
Like, he's making really sexist jokes, and, this poor army sergeant, at the beginning is like, I'm not interested in you.
She does not like him.
She doesn't.
Yeah.
But then at the end, she's his date to the wedding, and I can't figure out why or how.
Yeah. Because her resistance was not a problem to the screenwriters.
No.
It was, just a little, well, we gotta slow pedal this so they're not together yet.
Yeah.
I know, let's have her sternly object and make it clear that's not what she wants. And Johnny will move past it.
That said, it does have one of my favorite moments in the movie where Johnny gets out of the shower and he does the moment where he kind of turns up the heat a little bit and it just the water steams off of him and then he's completely dry.
I like that.
As far as I'm concerned, that's one of the most creative moments in the movie because I want this to be all about finding creative uses for their superpowers.
Yes, thank you. And that's one of the major things is if you look at their powers, if you had to pick your power to be a crime-fighting group, you would not pick invisibility.
No.
You would not pick
being
stretch
made of
good.
Rocks.
Yeah, and you wouldn't pick to look like Ben Grimm. Like the Thing. I mean, Human Torch has it pretty well, but everyone else...
This suit is
not,
Dolce.
Whatever. But it's not ideal, right?
Right.
And so that creates a tension of seeing them come up with really clever ways to do it. Particularly Reed, who has a power that really shouldn't be helpful in battle situations. Yeah. And that's one of the marks of his intelligence, is he's always quickly able to, even if it's goofy, making himself a net or making himself a parachute or a tire can do real damage with a smart guy in the right situation.
A medium that's actually really good at doing this is... Have you been watching Flash on TV?
I watched the first season of The Flash.
Last season and now this season, they've had Elongated Man, who is essentially a Mr. Fantastic clone.
Yeah.
And he's a stretchy guy. But they've had creative and interesting uses for the stretchy guy. And they've had him do cool, weird things. And then they've had him caught in compromising situations where he's shaped weird and people have made fun of him.
Yeah. Well, that's another reason.
Yeah.
One of the 100 reasons that they keep not nailing it is they keep just making his arms and legs go big.
Right.
They're not making his... It's a completely inventive character. The same way Green Lantern is. He's only limited by his imagination with the shapes he can make and what he can do in the moment.
Yeah.
And they instead just make him reach far and stand tall.
And spin around and dance with two ladies.
Yeah. Which, come on.
Is
that's not
bad.
Reed Richards.
No, not at all. As soon as he was cool, I'm not comfortable here at all. I'm going.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
It's not the guy from whatever the show is where he's immortal. That actor's in a new show.
Oh, Jan Gruffald.
Yeah, I don't know what
his name is. He's the guy in Titanic. At the end of Titanic, when they have the whole hanging on the door thing, and he's in the boat being like, I
haven't seen Titanic.
What? Did I just spoil Titanic for you?
Yeah, oh man, the ship goes down. Oh no. Okay. Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't have room on the door, which is clearly big enough for multiple people.
If you watched the movie, you'd get caught up and it wouldn't matter. You're criticizing it from too far away.
Am I?
Yeah! Okay. Titanic is good.
Is it?
Yeah!
Alright, I don't have 3 hours to spend on this.
Okay.
Well, no, the movie, it's 3 hours long, and who's got the time?
2 VHS tapes.
Ugh. I mean, that should be reserved for the 10 Commandments, and the 10 Commandments alone.
Watch Titanic.
Eventually, I will. Eventually, I'll be forced to. Someone will Clockwork Orange me into watching it. Funny story. I've never seen Clockwork Orange.
Oh, that's Clockwork Orange.
It's a good movie, but it's one of those movies that people would be like, Sam, don't watch this movie.
Yeah, it's not your thing.
No. But, so Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four. To Rise of the Silver Surfer. So
we agree that it needs to be creative use of their powers. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the Thing is kind of stuck with what he has. But honestly, as much as they are a team, they still fight individually. The one time when they don't is the end of the first movie. Mm-hmm. When it's Johnny Storm making the super fire Nova and Sue containing it.
Mm-hmm. But that's what it needs to be.
Yeah, they need to be like...
They honestly, are a team.
Reed Richards needs to slingshot the Thing into a giant monster.
They do that all the time.
Yeah. It doesn't happen in this movie once.
Right.
And
the closest they get is when all of the powers somehow end up in Johnny.
Which I get, like, every single time the Silver Surfer used his power, it benefited the person he was attacking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other thing is that as soon as Johnny and Ben switch powers, mm-hmm. Ben should have been like, oh, bye, and left.
No, Ben is a heart of gold.
He does.
He wouldn't.
No, but he's just like, can I just be human for a day?
I know. You'd think Johnny would have given him that. That's the thing.
Not in this movie.
You don't do power switching, combining powers in your second Fantastic Four movie. You do that after you've got it right once, which they didn't. And then you do it in like your fifth Fantastic Four movie.
When you're like, everyone's expecting something, and it's like when everything is so solidified, it's like we get how Reed Richards fights. Mm-hmm. What happens if Reed Richards is fighting with fire powers?
Right. Remember how exciting that was in the first Avengers movie when you start seeing like Iron Man deflect a blast off Captain America's shield? Like that's when it starts to come together. We have the team together already. Let's just do it.
In Age of Ultron, when they're like storming the Hydra base, mm-hmm. when Captain America holds up his shield, Thor clobbers it with a hammer, and then it just sends off the like all around and just knocks off the entire like squad of people,
tanks and squads of people. Yeah,
and you're like, they get it. They've been working together for a while. They know how these things work, and it's amazing.
That's what we should be seeing instead of a movie that's ostensibly about Reed Richards, and then it's just like some people that are way more superpowered than him doing not a lot.
Yeah, and. Well, we need you to not do these things. I did the things. We forgive you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but the other thing is that you still want it to be a Silver Surfer movie. You still want them to fight Galactus?
I think so. And so, I
Smoke Monster Galactus or Giant Robot Galactus?
Giant God Galactus.
Yeah.
So, my thought was, so this is, when we first talked about doing this podcast, I stalled for a while because I had a paralysis of too many options.
Yeah.
I actually think Mole Man and his Isle of Monsters would make a great movie. But I
agree with that, and I have a pitch on that, but keep going.
Yeah, but I think the movie with the most potential for a certain thing I want to do that I will tell you as we get into the plot is the Silver Surfer Galactus movie, and actually showing Galactus in the Silver Surfer Galactus movie.
I agree.
Instead of just a cloud of bees or whatever he turned out to be.
Yeah. Who's not afraid of a cloud of bees? I'm terrified of a cloud of bees.
I'm more afraid of a god that's trying to eat my planet than a cloud of bees.
What can I do about a god trying to eat my planet? Cloud of bees, I can run.
So you're more scared of the thing you can get away from?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Being scared of the thing I can't get away from isn't going to do me any good.
You just resign and accept your fate?
What am I going to do?
Yeah, well, in this situation, you have a power. Oh. And your family has powers.
Now we're getting into it.
There we go.
The one thing I would do with Galactus is not make him a white guy.
I agree.
I would have a giant... I'm even cool with him being humanoid. And I would have, like, the gigantic purple suit. And then I would kind of have the face be blank. Like, nothing... Like you kind of can't ever make it's all in shadow or it looks like space.
That's interesting because there is a thing with Galactus where he appears. It's sort of Eye of the Beholder stuff where, like, if he attacks the Skrull planet,
he looks like the Skrull.
He looks like a Skrull. He attacks human planets. He looks like a human.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it doesn't come up too much, but
well, especially because the Skrull can look like anybody.
Right, but in their natural form, They look like little goblins. I don't know. You're joking. But yeah, so I think Galactus, A, he's a big monster.
Yeah.
B, he has a lackey that's just also another monster.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer is a monster from space.
Yeah.
He is.
Okay.
He's an alien monster.
Hang 10.
Yeah. That character was written in 1966 for sure.
Yeah. Let's make things cool and relevant. This is a surfer in space.
You know what his name is, right? His
Don't they say it in the movie?
Well, yeah. So the whole thing with Silver Surfer is Galactus is a planet eater. He went to eat Silver Surfer's planet, and Silver Surfer was like, "Don't eat my planet.
Right.
Protect my family. I will be your assistant." And so from that moment on, he became Silver Surfer and stopped being Norrin Rad.
Yeah, he said that in the movie.
Rad. Rad Surfer.
Rad. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I just got that. No!
Yeah, it's pretty nasty.
I think in the movie they were like, Norrin Rad.
Yeah, well, once you say it in, who is it, Lawrence Fishburne's voice?
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Everything sounds cool said by Lawrence Fishburne. But I went down this deep Wikipedia hole one time just finding out about who all of the different Heralds of Galactus had been. Because there have been a lot.
Yeah,
like their previous like mine is the power cosmic, which everyone's just like, oh, you have god powers. Run.
Yeah.
And there was some like, because they used to have like Marvel DC crossovers, and there's this just image of Superman saying mine is the power cosmic, and everyone just going, oh no.
Yeah, no, you're toast.
Yeah, you're done. That's the end of your world.
Yeah, that'd be really bad. I'm glad. I'm not. None of it's real. Yeah.
But okay, so with that in mind, you want them to fight Galactus. My pitch for Mole Man is I want him to be the opening. When the Avengers in Age of Ultron are storming the Hydra base, I want that to be them attacking Mole Man.
Love it.
Not Isle of Monsters necessarily, because I didn't necessarily know about that, but like in some kind of I am the Underminer.
I think that's great. And I think that's great because another part of the problem with all of the Fantastic Four movies is they spend so much time on setup. Like even Rise of the Silver Surfer, they're already a team. You don't need to do any gathering team or getting their powers. They spend 45 minutes before they encounter the Surfer. And so it's like, classic movie stuff. We're showing regular life before the event that launches them into the story. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't do it for 45 minutes, but whatever.
Frankly, the Silver Surfer movie doesn't start until you have Victor Von Doom talking to the Silver Surfer. That's the beginning of the movie.
Right. But so what I'm saying is your regular life before the movie life, Fantastic Four's regular life is fighting monsters.
Right.
So Mole Man's a great start to the movie, and then when Silver Surfer and Galactus come, if we end up mirroring how it goes in the comics, then it's like, oh, we fought some Earth monsters, now we have to fight gods. Mm-hmm. And that's your acceleration into the story.
What I would do is they're fighting Mole Man, and they get a call like, hey, something weird's going on in Hong Kong or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Fantastic Four is like, all right, we'll get to it. Because they're like, it's always a monster. They're always prepared for it, whatever. And we'll get to it. It's not a big deal. Like, just get everyone to safety. We have to finish up here. They're kind of like taking their time, like taking out Mole Man. They're like, all right, we got it. Everything's covered. We have him covered. Cool. No, you don't understand. Get to Hong Kong now. Mm. Okay. And they get to Hong Kong and Silver Surfer's gone. It's just the massive hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And they're just like, what happened?
Yeah.
And it's something like you said, they're used to fighting monsters. This isn't a monster. And then, of course, because they got pulled away, Mole Man escapes and he comes back. And then he's like, oh, they're too strong. I got to get stronger.
Yeah. That's interesting.
He comes back in another movie.
The whole
Mole Man.
The hole in the earth thing is just
I know.
It just stretches the movie. It's not a thing Silver Surfer does. It has nothing to do with.
I don't care if it's a hole in the ground. I actually like it visually because for the smoke monster needs a USB port to plug into the planet in order to pull from its external battery.
Sure. Sure. That's your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, it's the best I can offer you.
Do you know?
Even though that never happens.
Yeah.
That's what we can assume.
Would have happened.
Never happens.
If they had just made the whole movie instead of.
But they didn't.
Counting on it being a franchise.
But something else happens. Something unbelievable. Literally unbelievable. Especially even for people with superpowers. So, like, how could this possibly have happened?
Could it be that the entire sky lights up in fire and then the sun is covered is clouded out by debris?
Because Mercury's gone?
Let me tell you a little bit about what happens in the comics.
Tell me.
With the arrival of the Silver Surfer. So, the basic idea of the main Silver Surfer Galactus story is a 3-issue run done in Marvel Comics in like 1966. And the first issue of it, basically it actually starts with Fantastic Four wrapping up another adventure.
Yeah.
With the Inhumans, which are essentially monsters.
Yeah. But
they're monstrous.
They're monstrous. Are they good guys or bad guys in this world? So
I don't know where they are in 1966. When they first appear, they're bad guys, and then you find out their whole scenario.
Yeah. Their whole deal.
So they're wrapping up an adventure with the Inhumans. And then it cuts to outer space. First time we see Silver Surfer. He's flying past the Skrull planet. And the Skrull are doing everything they can to not be seen by the Silver Surfer. And at this point, you have no idea why. They're like using whatever technology to mask their planet. And the Silver Surfer just goes on by. And then on Earth, they're on the Baxter Building, like the hideout or the headquarters. And the sky lights up in fire. Completely lights up in fire. We have no idea why. And so Reed retreats into his lab, as he often does, to try and solve this scenario. And then asteroids and space debris start clouding the sky and covering the sun, and he still can't figure it out. Eventually he figures out that this has to do with the Watcher. The Watcher is a giant baby monster.
Baby monster.
that lives on the moon.
Big-headed guy, watches everything and goes, yeah, no, I see it. I've seen all of it.
Ostensibly, that's all he does. Is he's supposed to watch, but he always interferes.
Yeah.
He has a strict rule about, but he always does. So that's the Watcher. So all that chaos caused is the Watcher trying to hide Earth from the Surfer. And so that's when the Surfer kind of explains, the Watcher explains everything to Reed in the Fantastic Four. Who the Surfer is, who Galactus is. He's not and it's a pretty cool introduction if you think about Galactus in 1966, because most villains to this point are like psychos, maniacal, power hungry, greedy. They're all focused on power. Galactus is none of that. He's a hungry god. We mean nothing to him. He's going to eat us no matter what. And that's why every planet who sees the Surfer dies. So it's pretty spooky stuff. So basically, at the end of this first issue, issue 48, Uatu finishes explaining that.
Uatu is the name of the Watcher.
Uatu is the name of the Watcher, excuse me. And Silver Surfer lands in the Baxter Building and fires a flare to Galactus. Johnny and Ben come out. They're trying to subdue the Surfer before he can finish sending his message. They end up knocking him off a building, and then Galactus lands. It happens that fast. And Galactus says, all right.
Guess what?
I'm going to eat this planet. And that's the end of the issue.
All of you go in here.
Right. So it's that kind of setup. And so what's cool about these 3 issues is it happens. This is a 3-issue storyline. Could be a whole movie. It happens all consecutively. There's nothing like Rise of the Silver Surfer where they have a week to invent a device.
Yeah.
It happens in probably an hour and a half.
This is a question that I have that I've kind of never really known. And every time I see reference to it online, it's always a joke and it's not the actual answer.
Yeah.
Galactus is some giant dude.
Yeah.
How does he actually eat a planet?
Let me tell you. It happens in the next issue. So he has this device. I don't know the name of it. But basically, so the next issue, issue 49, called If This Be Doomsday, is basically, he starts setting up an earth blender. Galactus is 30 feet tall. He's a god, but his size is pretty variable.
My understanding is that he can change his size.
He can, yeah. And I think when he gets really hungry, he starts to shrink a little bit. I think there's some of that.
That's funny.
But so he basically sets up this big Jack Kirby cool gears and bubbles machine. And while he's doing it, they're trying to stop him, and there's nothing they can do. Yeah. So he's just building this machine in the middle of New York, that is going to suck all the life out of Earth. And it takes him the whole issue. And so, like, the issue starts with Uatu and Reed trying to be, like, diplomatic, like, all the things you
Please let this planet live.
Yeah, and, like, the things you would say to an alien.
Tell you what, you can have the moon.
Yeah. Uatu's like, hey, come on!
You're here now, it's fine.
But, so...
Go get your stuff.
It's like, you know, if an alien came every movie, it's like they realize, oh, Earth life is special. And that's what they're saying. And Galactus is like, no, I'm still building I'm setting my table.
Yeah.
I'm building my blender machine.
Got my fork and knife out.
Right.
I got the appropriate set of spoons.
Yeah.
I folded the napkin into a candle, guys.
And so that's happening. And then Johnny and Ben are like, all right, we're superheroes.
Let's punch him.
Let's punch him. We already knocked out the surfer. Let's get Galactus. It means nothing to him. He, like, flings him off, keeps building the machine. So at that point, Uatu says basically, there's this machine back on his home planet that can kill him. It's on his home planet, though, so there's, like, nothing to do. Anyway, keep fighting. So, like, they just mentioned that.
Yeah, you don't own a wormhole, right? Cool. All right, we're out of here.
Right. So...
You are out of here.
Meanwhile, Surfer wakes up. Oh, the machine is called the Ultimate Nullifier. Which I love. So, Surfer wakes up.
The machine that can stop Galactus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Ultimate Nullifier can stop Galactus. There's no way to get it. Surfer wakes up in Alicia Masters' apartment. And Alicia's Kerry Washington in those movies, I think. Yeah.
She's the one who's dating Ben Grimm.
Right. Because Ben Grimm hates himself, and the only person he can deal with is a blind woman.
It feels like he doesn't hate himself in this movie. He hated himself in the first movie, but I don't think he hated himself here, because it feels like he's happy in his relationship.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
he's just kind of goofing around. He's embarrassed about his size, but that's about it. He seems kind of quietly confident with who he was here.
The character pretty throughout is miserable with himself. He's like a big heart of gold guy.
Yeah.
But he is embarrassed. He's the only one that turned into a monster.
Right.
So Alicia, but super compassionate woman, obviously, she takes Surfer in after he gets knocked out, and basically starts working on him and being like, can you talk to your boss about not eating Earth? So we go back to the battle. The battle's going on. Now all four are involved. Reed's fighting too. And they realize, like, let's stop fighting Galactus. Let's go for the blender. Because maybe if we just keep tearing apart his machine...
He'll just get frustrated and leave.
He'll get frustrated and leave, or he'll starve out, or whatever.
Yeah.
We know we have no effect against this god. Maybe we can destroy the god's toy.
Got it.
So they start doing that, and Galactus sends out cyborgs. He has this thing called the Punisher, which predates the Punisher, the other Marvel Punisher. And it's able to fight all four Fantastic Four at once, and Galactus just, like, casually goes about rebuilding his machine. And it's just relentless. Like, there's nothing they can do. Everything they try fails. And so then Uatu just kind of calls over Johnny, and he's like, hey, I can kind of amplify your powers and send you into space? And then he does that. And so Johnny just is gone. Because
you know where the best place for fire is?
Space.
Is an oxygen-poor environment.
Yeah, that would be the place to go. Explosions are often in space.
Uh-huh. An explosion can happen in space, but the fire's got to go out immediately.
Yeah.
That's what they do in Battlestar Galactica. Oh, there's a fire. Cool. Open it to space.
Yeah.
That'll put it out.
And it's gone.
And no more fire.
So I guess he gives him some sort of the same kind of thing that Silver Surfer has, where he can travel through space. So he sends him off, and now it's just the three against Galactus and the Cyborg. And
the four.
What's that?
The four. Watcher's helping.
Yeah, he's not really helping. He's just watching and also helping, but not really helping.
Okay, sure.
So then at the end of the issue, this is the second of the three issues, Alicia convinces
Norrin Radd
to stand up against, and that's another thing with against Galactus. But that's another thing with the sexism of the Tim Story movies is, like,
it's just
all
because
Sue Storm gets to do.
She does nothing. It's just like, well, you're pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I don't want you to die.
Right. It's like, I love you. You look like my space wife or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And that's it. It's like the way she looks is her power. And in the 60s comics, it's her women's intuition. It's shit. But anyway, we can do better. So...
Okay, cool. So I like the idea of this story, and I like the idea of it being literally an impossible feat. But we got to do it without the Watcher.
I'm okay with that.
Because, especially if you're setting up a new franchise, you're going to have enough to deal with just setting up the characters that we're familiar with before setting up the whole concept of Watchers.
Mm-hmm.
They've briefly alluded to it, the Watchers in the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But as a joke, and I get that, and it was super funny.
Yeah.
If you got it.
Yeah, we don't need it.
We don't.
I'm happy to do that. I'm happy
I like the concept of that. And I do think we should do Moloids at the beginning. They're fighting Moloids, whatever. They come back. And I like the idea of the sky being on fire. But I like it if it's on fire, not because it was the Watcher protecting something, but because something is destroyed. You can't destroy the moon. Think of the tides. Mm-hmm. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like on his way to Earth, Mercury or Venus done got blowed up.
Yeah.
Or
he...
Something.
Galactus had some snacks in the way, and it screwed up
Or he
everything.
sneezed.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Got Alpha Centauri all over you.
That's a real Tim Story move. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the last issue.
Tell me.
If you don't mind. So, and this one is a lot faster to summarize because it's mostly action sequences.
Great.
So the basic idea with issue 50 is the Surfer decides to stand up against Galactus. Now his power, you mentioned the power cosmic before.
Yeah.
That's what he's imbued with by Galactus. So he's in no way nearly as powerful as Galactus. It's a fraction of his power. It's really a losing fight, and he knows it, but it's essentially to buy Johnny time. Johnny comes back from space, having been to Galactus' home planet, with the ultimate nullifier. Hands it over to Reed, because it's an alien weapon, and Reed's the only one smart enough to figure out how to use it.
Story checks out.
He threatens Galactus with it. Galactus is furious and hangry, and it says basically like, all right, if you give me the gun, I'll leave. And Reed does?
What?
and Galactus does.
What?
Reed's like, all right, fair. And he gives him the ultimate nullifier. And this is my problem with it. He gives him the ultimate nullifier, and then he leaves, and he's like, Surfer, as punishment, you're trapped to Earth. You don't get to travel in space anymore. And then he goes, presumably to eat other planets.
Look, there's two things I can do. First of all, kill the giant god that eats planets.
Yeah.
1. Or 2, say, no, we keep this, never come back here again.
Right. Yeah, we have this now. I don't understand why he did that, why that was okay.
The other thing, I'm trying to remember the context of where I originally saw it, but I feel like it's something X-Men related, and I don't remember what. But basically the concept of you can't kill a being this big because there is a universal biosphere, for lack of a better word, a universal environment where you can't just kill off all the alpha predators because then you have other problems.
Yeah.
And it's keeping things in balance. And I'm trying to desperately remember what the context was for that statement. Like, we can't just kill this thing off because we don't know what it would do to the larger... Oh, I do know. It's a Magic the Gathering story reference.
Okay.
So in Magic the Gathering, there are these monsters called the Eldrazi. And they're world eaters. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I wonder where they got that from. But basically, at some point, they are trapped in a world called Zendikar, trapped instead of destroyed, because if they were destroyed, you don't know what that would do to the rest of the multiverse. And so they're trapped instead because that way they're not destroyed, so that they still kind of exist, worst case scenario, but also because you don't know what destroying them would do to the universe as a whole.
What would the difference be between taking them out of commission and killing them, in terms of what they do?
Well, you don't know, because it was described as, we're just kind of seeing an aspect of them. We don't know if they're just a piece of a larger being, and if you kill them, the actual larger being will come in.
I see.
Whereas if you just hold them in place, it's a stasis as opposed to escalation.
Like we would, like you might say to someone who doesn't like spiders, like, if you kill all the spiders, then we're surrounded in flies.
We're doomed, yeah.
I get that. I still think kill the thing that kills the planet.
I tend to agree with you.
You're pro-Galactus, is what I'm taking from this.
Absolutely. I think planets should die.
Pro-Galactus.
Galactus 2020.
Oh, God.
But that was the logic behind it. That's a big swing to kill something larger than you, because that will have repercussions and ripples that you do not understand.
Yeah.
And yes, he might eat a planet here and there, but by killing him, it might get worse. I don't know. You don't know what he's fighting off. Yeah. You don't know what he is, like, he might eat planets and have that power to fight off the super gods. I don't know.
Right.
But that's always the logic that gets used. I necessarily don't have a problem with, it's killing all the people. Make it stop.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. I mean, for a while, like, going back to Fantastic Four specifically, in the comics, they reveal in the backstory that when Surfer started being the Herald, he specifically sought out planets that don't have people or intelligent life on them.
Right.
But you do that for centuries, and you start to get weary of it and casual. And the same way with Galactus. When he first started out, he would only eat planets that had life but not intelligent life, and then you do it for long enough. So I think the way...
Because he does need the organic life.
Yeah.
So you just go to some planet that's just all grassland and, like, actual fauna never evolved.
Right. That would be
all flora, no fauna.
That would be ideal. But again, so I think that's the idea.
So eat the planet from the Pedal video game.
I've never played.
Don't worry about it.
I won't. So the idea is, even if Galactus tries, it's not going to happen. He tried it, and it ended up not caring anymore, and went to eat Zenla or wherever Silver Surfer's from. I think it is Zenla. And then Surfer tried it, and eventually led him to Earth anyway. Okay. And I am anti-Galactus.
Sure. It's a strong opinion.
I hope we can still be friends.
If that's the hill you're willing to die on, so be it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So that was the whole thing. So it ends with Surfer being stuck on Earth.
And then the Surfer gets a comic.
And his only friends are the Fantastic Four, and he's lonely and
whatever. I like the idea. I also like Galactus on Earth, big robot guy, gonna eat the planet, doing a thing. I'm gonna make another reference. Did you watch any Dragon Ball Z growing up?
I did, yeah.
Did you ever watch
the Toonami?
The Tree of Life movie?
Yeah.
So a bad guy comes to Earth, plants a seed, and a giant tree grows that sucks the life out of the planet Earth, and it brings fruit. And these fruit, you eat them, you gain power. I feel like in a studio system, that's kind of what you would end up with. It's Galactus coming to create something, and here's this fruit, and if you have Dr. Doom would want to get that fruit, he'd get the power, and then he could piece the frick out.
No Dr. Doom.
Right.
This is my ideal remake.
No Dr. Doom.
No Dr. Doom.
I have casting for him.
I'm sorry, he's not in the movie.
No Dr. Doom in the movie.
No Dr. Doom in the movie.
Can he be in the post-credit teaser?
I have a different thing in mind for the post-credit teaser.
Okay, we'll get there.
Okay.
But you want a Jack Kirby Bubbles and Machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a weird, crazy, we don't get how this works. Reed Richards doesn't get how this works, but it is draining the planet of power.
If Reed Richards had enough time, he could figure it out.
Sure. But
this whole thing happens almost in real time, in my mind.
I like that. I'm cool with that. I think that's interesting. Because I think that doesn't give us a chance for interpersonal squabbles, blah, 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 blah.
Right. And you can have your bickering during a battle like you always do, and it's fun to watch superheroes
of course
do that. Especially the Fantastic Four.
I mean, that's what they do.
Right.
Bickering is what they do, but it needs to not be stupid 5-year-old bickering.
Right. And it also needs to be not, we got to put some action sequences in. Let's do them fighting each other again.
Yeah.
Like, that's so boring.
Yeah.
They're a team. Yes, they fight, and they do fight in the comic books. Like, Johnny and Ben often have physical brawls, like kids. But it's not, when we only have an hour and a half to tell a story, that's not the fight sequence I want to see. I want to see the Fantastic Four teaming up against Punisher the Cyborg. I want to see them trying to fight a god.
That sounds great.
Silver Surfer.
I would watch that.
It's so much more interesting. If we're losing Oatu, the Watcher,
which I think we should.
I think we should too. I also think rather than have them going somehow to Galactus' planet to retrieve the Ultimate Nullifier, it is a Reed Richards invention.
I agree with that as well. And if anything, I think... Here's my pitch.
Yeah.
What I think it needs to be is Galactus is on Earth. He's constructing his machine. They fight him. That doesn't work. They're trying to fight the machine. They kind of break the machine. Galactus sends the Punisher out. We'll have to come up with a new name for that. We'll call it Annihilus.
We will not, because Annihilus could be used in future properties.
We'll call it Diablo.
Why would he call it the Spanish word for a devil?
We'll call it Namor.
We will not!
I'm just coming up with other...
Namor the Submariner is a significant character. You don't want to burn it.
What was the one that... what's the guy that just shoots beams? That's his special power? That's the villain?
I don't know.
I'm looking it up.
The Shocker?
Blastar.
Love it. Give me Blastar.
Literally the first one on this thing. Blastar, sometimes called the Living Bomb Burst, and Blastar is he lives in the negative zone. He's also an enemy of Annihilus.
Yep. So negative zone.
Basically, his power is he shoots beams from his hand.
Yeah. Negative zone is a super cool place. Came from Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Annihilus.
It's where Superman sends the bad guys he doesn't want to kill.
We can just come up with a name instead of using...
I know. I'm having fun doing this.
Okay.
Yeah, we would come up with a name. And so he sends out this robot. The robot shuts them down also. As they lose, they're able to steal parts of the machine away.
Yeah.
And so Reed is able to figure it out, and he's able to come up with something... He's able to both figure out the machine and figure out how the machine plugs into Galactus. Mm-hmm. So basically he has the decision to make of... He only has enough time to make one thing.
Yeah.
Something that stops the machine or something that stops Galactus. The machine, they can figure out it'll almost for certain work. The thing that would stop Galactus, we don't know.
Right.
The machine, he gets it. Mm-hmm. Galactus, we don't know. He kind of can figure out and can kind of what the machine is giving in, he can take out.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know if that'll work. And so they have to roll the dice, and he has to decide whether or not... which one of those two he's going to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that is that could kind of be the dividing thing of the movie. Two of them think they need to destroy the machine. Two of them think they need to attack the guy.
Interesting.
And I think it should be Johnny Storm and Reed Richards thinks that they should attack the guy. And Sue and the Thing think that they need to take down the machine. And I think that the Thing being on Sue's side saying, no. We're in serious danger here. Let's just go for the sure thing, and then we can take the next step after it. Yeah. It's a departure for him, and it's a more interesting development.
Interesting. I understand that.
Especially if we're doing this in real time.
Right. And I love the idea of doing it in real time.
Yeah, it was your pitch.
I think it may serve us well to not be afraid to make the conventional choice for the character. Because we don't get a lot of time with these characters.
That's fair. I get that.
They screw them up a lot. I don't want to go, this is an unusual move for the Thing on the first time we see the Thing.
Okay.
I don't want to make him boring, but I think there's a lot interesting about himself and his character. One of the things to keep in mind with the Thing, as opposed to the movies, so like in the movies, you might remember better than I do with the Tim Story ones. Why does Ben Grimm end up on in the science experiment? Is he?
I thought he was another scientist.
So they mess it up occasionally, but the basic idea is Ben Grimm is not an idiot. He's often played as an oafy dumb
because
guy.
That's how he's drawn, but he's not. I thought he was a scientist.
He's not a scientist, but he is an ace pilot. He went to college with Reed.
So he and Johnny are friends, basically. Because isn't Johnny also a pilot?
No, that's a thing with the Chris Evans movies.
Okay.
Johnny's just... So the way it originally was is... And again, it doesn't give a lot of agency to Sue in particular, but it was...
Sounds like the 60s.
Yeah. Reed and Ben went to college together. They went to war together. World War II.
Oh. Wow, that is a war.
Yeah, that's one of them. And then when Reed was ready to go to space, they were astronauts together because he was the best pilot he knew. So he has a level of technical knowledge and expertise that is occasionally used in the comics and never dealt with in the movies.
Yeah.
So I
think
it would be nice
big guys like punching things.
Right.
Unlike in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where the big guy hates punching things and is an engineer.
Yeah.
It's great. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a good show.
I like it. I'm behind, but I like the show.
And I think they're waiting for a mid-season replacement because I also think they're we don't know how to deal with what just happened in Infinity War.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We'll wait.
We'll hold.
Yeah.
Or do what the Netflix shows did and just be this is still before.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
The now canceled Netflix shows.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Daredevil all got canceled.
Yeah. They say...
Iron Fist I get. Luke Cage I kind of don't because...
It's a really good character. The show
It's a great character.
Fine.
It's not a good show.
Yeah.
I hated that season. I'm sorry, but I did.
I didn't finish season 2.
I didn't even start it. But it's a whole other way of being a superhero that isn't addressed anywhere else, and I think that's important.
I think what they're doing, I mean, it seems pretty clear, is that Disney's starting their own streaming service.
Yeah.
They're about to do their own
and so
streaming
they want
TV shows. They don't want any competition. But both Netflix and Marvel put out statements saying that they expect Daredevil to show up in future properties. So I don't know if that means maybe they just wrap him up in an episode of Jessica Jones, or if that means he ends up in
a movie.
Maybe it'd be a good fit if they do a Black Widow movie because they have a relationship. Anyway. Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
The start of it all.
The one thing I'm excited about is Luke Cage. I don't like that guy, but
I love Mike Coulter.
The lady in the TV show whose name is escaping me.
Alfred Woodard?
I think her name's Connie in the show, but I don't think that's right. Doesn't
Oh,
matter.
wait, are you saying Iron Fist?
Iron Fist.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
She's a great actor.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, the actor, Luke Cage is great. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Iron Fist, that lead actor, don't really care, but
No, he's bad.
his female opposite is amazing.
Yeah, I like her a lot.
And so I want her to be in more things.
Mm-hmm.
I've used her in this show before. I don't remember what episode. Doesn't matter. What were we talking about? The Thing. He's a big guy, and he's really technically smart.
Yeah.
But you were saying you don't necessarily want them going against type in this. So let's say they're split 2-2. They need a deciding vote, and that deciding vote can either be Alicia Masters or it can be the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
And
I think Silver Surfer makes the most sense. He would have...
I think so too.
He'd be best at making an informed decision.
And I think because that way they can say they can drain Galactus into the Silver Surfer, and that way the Silver Surfer is able to fight Galactus. Because he is able to, if they're draining the power cosmic away from Galactus, who already knows how to use the power cosmic.
That's interesting. So you're saying that whatever Ultimate Nullifier version they use is a transferring thing, rather
Well,
than...
if it's based off of the technology that Galactus is putting into his draining machine,
I see what you're doing.
If the draining machine pulls, this pushes.
Mm-hmm.
Or it pulls out of Galactus. So instead of feeding power into Galactus, it takes power away from it. But that power has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And so they can either try to put it into one of them, and Johnny's like, I'll do it. And they're like, no, you'll die.
Mm-hmm.
But Silver Surfer can handle it because he's already tuned into the power cosmic.
That's cool. Yeah, but then that sets up another tension where, like...
Do we trust him?
Silver Surfer with
Or
ultimate
is he just
power?
trying to usurp his boss?
Yeah. Dope. I like that tension. He does the right thing in the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Because Sue Storm's pretty or something.
Because Alicia showed him compassion that is only in humanity. And the people of Zenlong.
That reminds him why... That reminds him what his initial goal was in becoming the Herald, of choosing planets where compassion hadn't developed.
Perfect. That's great. I love it. Okay, so we're running through plot. So can I talk about how I want it to end?
Yeah, tell me about how you want it to end. Because I feel like we kind of have a sense of the movie as a whole. We kind of have our initial teaser, we have the setup, we have the what's kind of happening.
Yeah.
We kind of have the second act turn of them building the machine. Oh no, do we trust this guy? Okay, let's trust him, let's go. Third act, go.
Okay. I want to add in a layer of context of how I've been envisioning it that we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
One of the problems that the Fantastic... I'm going to rephrase. One of the reasons that the Fantastic Four movies have always failed is because Fantastic Four are 1960s characters.
Yeah.
They're optimistic, they're bright, they're very science-based.
Yep.
You know, you think of... They're very influenced by 60s monsters movies and the 60s culture of the time that really valued science, scientists, inventions, astronauts.
Got it, okay.
So, if you read a comic today, even though the art may be updated, the language style might be updated, it's still an optimistic monster fighting family, which feels very 60s.
Okay.
And I think part of the reason that the movies haven't worked, the Corman one, they tried to adapt it to the 90s, the Tim Story ones, they tried to adapt it to the 2000s, the most recent one, they tried to adopt it to this kind of dark 2015 thing.
Well, they gave it the Man of Steel treatment.
Yeah.
Which is a problem. Because these are supposed to be light characters dealing with heavy shit.
Right.
But they're still positive people.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why, when we get into casting, I cast a lot of comedy people.
Yeah, I thought about comedy people too. I didn't land on a couple, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you say. But in any case, what I feel like is this. We set the movie in 1962.
Oh, interesting.
And hear me out all the way through. This whole scenario we're talking about happens in 1962 New York. So everything we've been seeing is that kind of slick. It all just... So everything we've been seeing just matches that aesthetic.
Okay.
And what we get from it that's cool is we get all the things that makes Fantastic Four great in the aesthetic that they're built for, without all the problematic stuff that comes out of reading the 1960s comics. Right?
Okay.
The movie goes, whether they use the Surfer's powers, or whether Galactus' machine explodes, or whether they use the Ultimate Nullifier, they beat Galactus, the movie's over, something explodes, something sends them
to the future.
Into the MCU. Not into their future.
Oh, into the MC. Yeah, they get blown into a different universe.
Into the universe we're familiar with.
Okay.
Kind of end of Captain America First Adventure. So the idea being, and this is a big swing, but it's my ideal remake. But the idea is we get everything about Great Fantastic Four 60s.
Oh, okay.
And they
Here's
get
how you
transported
do that.
whole hog as they are with the attitudes they have, and it makes sense into 2018.
Well, here's how you do that. What happens is they beat Galactus. Galactus leaves, but as soon as Galactus leaves, the big machine he was building is going to explode.
Yeah.
And so they have to get that machine out of there. And the Silver Surfer's been completely drained. He doesn't have the power to do it. Mm-hmm. So what they have to do is basically Sue creates a force field around it. Johnny is underneath pushing it up.
Yeah.
Reed is going...
Making last-minute adjustments or something.
Reed is doing last-minute adjustments, trying to make it not explode.
Right.
But they're going to space, and Thing comes with because he's like, look, if you guys are going, I have to be with you.
Right.
I honestly think that he would choose to be there to be with them.
Yeah.
Then...
Especially if we don't have Alicia in the movie.
Yeah.
They're all he has.
Right.
They're the only people who accept him for who he is.
And, if you guys are going out into space to sacrifice yourselves, I'm going with you. Because this is how... Because if you guys go out, I want to be there with you. Mm-hmm. And I feel like... And so they get it. They are in space. Fantastic Four. Stuff happens in space. Yeah. Tagline. Fantastic Four. Stuff happens in space.
Yeah. With the...
Yeah. And... And that's how they... So this explosion... it explodes, implodes, pop.
Yeah.
And then it just opens up, and they land, and it's a different world. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I really like that, because then, if we do have future Fantastic Four adventures, it can feel right that they are the characters they are.
In a different world. They're literally characters from a different world. Here's my only issue with that.
Yeah.
Sue's got to be kind of the main character.
Okay.
And if you put her in a 60s context, that's a lot harder to do.
But it's 60s content in a totally different universe.
Okay.
We don't have to worry about having all white people in power.
Good.
We don't have to worry about...
I didn't just cast white people.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. But so we don't have to worry about all of the nasty 60s things. There are monsters. This is a world where superheroes exist in 1962. So we don't have to stick to the racial and patriarchal problems of our 1962.
Great. Okay,
we can have all the aesthetic and all of the brightness without the terrible stuff.
All right, cool. So they're going to a worse world.
Yes. Oh, no, it's bad. It's bad here.
Okay.
Or
all
there,
right.
or whatever.
It is worse.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on board for that.
I think it's cool.
Great.
Because the four of them go, and Doctor Doom's story, if we want to use him later, isn't necessarily tied to their origin. That's more of a movie thing than a comic thing.
I've never cared about that.
So we can have Doctor Doom in the MCU later on. It's just the four of them, the four celebrity superheroes of 1960 New York, end up in our MCU at the end of this movie.
Yeah. If anything, they can be comic book characters in the MCU that all of a sudden become real.
Yeah. They do that in the comics. They have characters in comics reading a whole comic book or whatever.
But especially it's they did that in the Justice League animated TV show, where an explosion happened and Green Lantern, the Flash, and third person, Hawkwoman, Hawkgirl, whatever, Hawkwoman. Hawkgirl's bad. Hawkwoman get blown into an alternate universe, and it's kind of that 50s era, Silver Age world.
Yeah.
But these are all characters that Green Lantern read about in comic books. He's literally meeting the comic book characters.
Yeah.
It's great. And so I think that we should absolutely do something like that. I think that's a good idea.
Cool.
Wonderful. Love it.
I was prepared to defend it harder, but that's
fine. I think it's a good idea. Cool. I'm all aboard your good idea. Okay. So then let's start talking about casting.
Yeah.
So I don't think we missed anything. So the one thing that I did was, because I think this needs to be the established Fantastic Family. Uh-huh. They're established. I cast a little bit older.
I was looking at late 30s, early 40s for everyone but Johnny.
I did the same thing.
Okay, cool.
Wonderful. So I think we should start with, and the other thing is, I don't care about how characters look. I've never cared about how they look. In Rise of the Silver Surfer, Jessica Alba has dyed blonde hair.
What was with that?
And blue eye contacts.
Yeah, no.
And it's terrible.
We're on the same page.
I don't care that Sue Storm is blonde. Frankly, I don't care that Mary Jane is a redhead. I don't care that Gwen Stacy is blonde. Right. That doesn't matter. That's not the essence. The appearance of someone is not the essence of the character.
Right.
Good.
I'm with you.
Cool.
No argument.
So let's talk about Sue Storm.
Okay. My pitch
Okay.
And I'm a little bummed that you didn't watch it, because I'm suggesting Constance Wu, and you just got the screener for
Constance Wu's
Crazy
come
Rich
up
Asians.
a lot on this show.
Yeah.
Like, a lot.
So here's the thing. Because this is a backdoor entry into MCU, it cut my casting choices down a lot.
Yeah.
But I think Constance Wu totally has the charisma to be the leader of the movie.
I agree with that.
And has a lot of emotional depth. I think looks the character, if we're just thinking of the character, not the racial background or ethnicity of the character.
Sure.
So I really like Constance Wu.
Good. Everyone likes Constance Wu. I've got nothing against Constance Wu. But what I wanted was, I wanted someone who's both capable, competent, and an action star. Mm. And that's why I went with Kerry Russell. The female lead in The Americans.
Yeah, no, I know Kerry Russell.
She is capable of doing comedy. Like, my first exposure to Kerry Russell is when she had a couple episodes in Scrubs. Mm-hmm. And since then, she's had this amazing career. She was in Waitress, excuse me. Waiting is a different movie.
Yep.
It's a worse movie.
I like Waiting.
The one where they spit in the food?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I liked it in college.
I bet. Don't watch it now.
Oh, no.
I tried to watch it with Cam and Ed, and we got a couple minutes, and as soon as they started messing with the food, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't watch this.
Yeah, I like Kerry Russell a lot. She was in one of the Mission Impossibles.
Probably.
Brief part.
But that's the thing.
3.
She's an action star.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want. I love Constance Wu. I love her comedy chops. I love her essence. Mm-hmm. Because she's delightful, she's fun, and she's competent. And those are important components. But I also need someone who can fight.
Do we want to wait on locking this in until we hear how they go together?
I agree with that. Because it is a unit, and I think we should kind of introduce all of them and kind of stitch it together with who we think works.
Yes, I'm done with that.
Especially because we kind of need to pair our Sue Storm and our Reed Richards.
Right, and unless we're doing the adoption thing again, like they did in Fantastic.
I said Reed Richards.
I know. I was.
About this.
No,
siblings?
I'm saying we need to match the siblings as well.
Oh, I don't care about that.
I want him to be.
I liked Fantastic, where it's just he's black. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I mean that she was adopted, that like Sue was adopted or whatever. But
I don't care which one of them is adopted. I don't care if anyone's adopted. I don't care if it's stepbrother, stepsister.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, but
as long as they appear to have been raised together and are family.
As long as they are family.
Yeah,
that's all I care about.
Cool.
I will go first for Reed Richards because you went first for Sue Storm. Yeah. My Reed Richards is Bill Hader.
Interesting.
He has the look and he can kind of do dramatic, but here's the thing: he's super, super smart, but socially doesn't quite get it. Like that's why the strip club scene or when Mr. Fantastic, the bachelor party is so bad.
Yeah.
Because that's not who he is. He needs to be someone who's like kind of uncomfortable all the time, unless he's with Sue, or unless he's working.
So, let me dig in a little bit of how I think about Reed.
Okay.
One of the problems that they do with Reed is that because he's intelligent, they cast him to be bookworm nerdy.
Okay.
Reed still is an action hero. He's a war veteran. He fights for 600 issues.
Yeah.
He's physically imposing.
Okay.
And looks like a superhero.
Okay.
And I think when you cast like,
I swear to God, if you're about to say John Hamm,
Jon Gruffwald or whatever,
it
doesn't work. When you cast Miles Teller, it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, but I also just don't like Miles Teller.
We can talk about that separately. I don't like Ms. Reed Richards. I like Miles Teller as an actor. But my pitch, and now there is an internet fan base for suggesting a certain couple for Reed and Sue that I'm not totally on board with.
Okay.
But my suggestion for Reed is late period John Krasinski. I think he is charismatic, plays as intelligent, is super jacked right now, plays as could be a veteran, also plays as someone who could be focused on inventing the whole time. The pairing people suggest is John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to do that.
No, it's a good pairing. As much as I like her. I love Emily Blunt.
Right.
But you know why we can't go with John Krasinski, I don't think, right?
Why?
Let me confirm, because there's a chance I'm getting this wrong.
Did he get cast in something?
Oh, no, I always get John Krasinski confused with the dude from Chuck. Because it's the dude from Chuck who's playing Shazam, right?
Right.
Not John Krasinski?
Right.
John Krasinski is not in the Marvel Universe as of yet.
Right, but Shazam isn't Marvel. Shazam's DC.
Good point. Nonetheless, still superhero stuff.
Yeah. Zachary Levi is who you're thinking of.
Yeah, it is.
But Krasinski, I think, would do really well. I think he looks like an action hero now. I think he has a sensitivity. The other thing that's nice is I think John Krasinski has a really good habit, or a really good skill, I should say, of playing characters that should be unlikable that somehow aren't. And Reed is bossy and a brainiac and locks himself in his lab and ignores his family.
Yeah.
But you still
But at
like
least
him.
he didn't invent Ultron.
He didn't invent Ultron. But he has...
But he would have.
He would not have. But he has... You understand his character. You understand his good heart. And I think John Krasinski's really good at getting those qualities across. Especially with someone like Jim from The Office, who's kind of a dick, but you always manage to love him. Same idea.
Okay, I can see that. Interesting. All right, cool. Why don't we talk about... Who do you have for Ben Grimm?
So, I have 2 ideas I couldn't land.
Okay.
I wanted someone... One of the things that I like about Ben Grimm is he feels very local New York. So 2 people that I feel like can pull that off really well and also pull off the kind of internal pain.
Because here's the thing. I liked the casting they had for Ben Grimm in the Fantastic Four movie, as I saw.
Michael Chiklis?
Yeah, I thought Michael Chiklis was great.
Good.
I like Michael Chiklis.
I think Michael Chiklis is good, and I also thought Chris Evans was the right pick at the time.
Yeah, I think he was poorly written.
Yeah.
But he's good casting.
Right. But in terms of now, the 2 thoughts, and this is a little older than our pairing so far with Reed and Sue, but it could still work because, he's going to be CGI the whole time, or whoever they make him. I was thinking...
Was he CGI in the original ones? And the one I watched, he wasn't CGI. They put him in a...
It's in a suit.
I like the suit.
Yeah. Well, whatever they do, you're not going to see...
I would, yeah.
That
you're not
someone
see
looks
his face.
50 instead of 40.
Sure.
Michael Kenneth Williams.
All right, let me look him up.
Michael Kenneth Williams is the guy with the big scar on his face that's in stuff.
Okay.
He was in The Wire. He's in Boardwalk Empire.
This dude's intense.
He's an intense dude, but I think he has that... I think he's good at communicating some pain. I think he's a pretty good actor. The other option I have is Michael Jai White. Are you familiar with Michael Jai White?
I recognize the name.
He was Spawn. But his big thing, correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I'd hate to say something dumb here.
Black Dynamite?
Black Dynamite. So he is someone, and he was in Dark Knight, he's someone who can handle, like you were talking about with Kerry Russell, he's someone who can handle intense action stuff, but also is a really good actor, and also knows comedy.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I think he'd be a really good fit. I'm talking myself into Michael Jai White over Michael Kenneth Williams.
Yeah, so you just had to say it out loud.
Yeah.
The actor that I have, sticking with our Michael theme, is... No. The actor that I have is an actor named Bashir Salahuddin, who you may not have seen. He hasn't done that much. But I know him from... I mean, he was in Snatch, but I know him from Glow.
Who is he in Glow?
He is... There's the black couple, the really competent lady and her husband. Let me just turn this computer around.
Well, they can't see it on the podcast.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to come up with a better way of describing him. In Glow, he plays the referee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like him. I haven't seen enough of him to know whether he's got it.
But he's a light, fun character. He's kind of the person who picks other people up when they're feeling down in Glow, and he kind of is... He's light and he's fun, and he's a positive character, and he literally is playing people's friend.
Yeah.
He's that person that they turn to because he is their friend.
So,
he also has the right build for it.
He does. I think of the Thing as eternally pained, but with a heart of gold. He's this grumpy, not particularly friendly guy who would do anything for his family.
Okay.
So that's what I think of him. Do you think Bashir, whatever his last name is, could pull that off?
I mean, I'm sure he can. I've never seen him necessarily play grumpy, but I'm sure he can play grumpy.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to play grumpy. You just
I guess not.
Get woken up early.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Okay, and so let's talk about Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
My Johnny Storm is an actor named Hassan Minhaj.
I like Hassan Minhaj.
I picked him because, again, he's comedic, but he's also been in action movies. He was in... My ex-boyfriend was a spy... The Spy Who Dumped Me.
Oh, I saw him.
The Mila Kunis, Kate McKinnon movie. And he is, I think, about 10 years younger than the other people that I cast. So he's the younger guy, but he's kind of like the, hey, comedy guy. Yeah. But also is like, hey, check this out. I'm going to do some cool shit.
That's cool. I like that. I wish I have seen him on anything besides stand-up or his show or Daily Show. Because I don't have a sense of the choices he makes as an actor.
He's good in The Spy Who Dumped Me.
Yeah. I saw a glimpse of Spy Who Dumped Me on a plane.
That's the best way to see a movie. Yeah. It's a good movie. You should watch it.
Okay, so on the other side of that, I had considered 3 people from it.
Okay.
Tell me if any of these names jump out to you as likely. I think you know.
I did text you one name.
I know, and I'm having trouble.
I know. Go ahead.
Kelly Marie Tran.
Okay.
I like a lot.
Great.
Johnny doesn't need to be a guy.
Of course not. And I've used Kelly Marie Tran in a couple of different things because she's amazing.
Aquafina.
Okay.
As an option.
Okay.
You know her?
I do. I've used her in a couple of things on this show as well.
And then I'm going to butcher, I always mispronounce his name, but Manny Jacinto, I think.
So many times Manny Jacinto's
But think of him as Human Torch.
Yeah.
He's very
He'd be great. The only reason I fight against is because I think like the last 3 movies we've done, he's been some character in it because we all love Jason.
I talked to a previous guest of yours, Paul, and he said apparently Donald Glover comes up a lot.
Yeah, not recently, not since I've been made a big stink about it. The people who come up a lot are Manny Jacinto, Kate McKinnon, Donald Glover, Idris Elba, Melissa McCarthy, and that's it.
I get all that.
Although now Constance Wu has been coming up a lot as well.
I think she's wonderful. But I think we should consider
Donald Glover?
For balancing out the fact that this movie is, and we might cast Galactus not as a man, but if you think of the lead casting of this movie, the team is 3 men and 1 woman, and the bad guys are at least 1 man.
Your logic of casting a woman makes perfect sense to me.
So I think we should consider that for Johnny.
And like of the people you listed, I love Kelly Marie Tran. She is not Johnny Storm.
Yeah, she's
but Awkwafina could be.
Okay, I like Awkwafina a lot for it.
And I like Awkwafina for the exact same reasons that I like Hassan Minaj.
Mm-hmm.
She's a comedic person. She hasn't really done as much action, but she could.
Right.
She's great in Ocean's 8. My understanding is she's great in Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, she's good. I mean, she's wild. And that's the thing is, I think Johnny, of all the characters, of the 4, he's the least serious. He's having fun with his powers, or she's having fun with her powers.
Sure.
And I think Awkwafina could pull that off in a nice way.
The Human Torch's powers are the most fun.
Right. He can turn them on and off,
unlike
the Thing. He can fly, unlike the other.
Who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Like for a while when I was a kid, like imagining like which superpowers I'd want, it was either the Human Torch or Iceman.
Yeah.
Those are the 2.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
Human Torch or the Human Torch ripoff.
Iceman is a Human Torch ripoff?
When X-Men first came out, the issue is like, in the exciting style of the Fantastic Four. And it was like, we have a strong man in Beast, and we have, instead of a fireman, we have an Iceman. And we have a woman with psychic powers instead of a woman that creates...
And then a leader.
Yeah, and then Cyclops is different.
Yeah.
But still, it
makes sense.
It was very much modeled after Fantastic Four.
I like them.
So, yeah.
Makes sense. I would... Okay, let's go with Awkwafina, because I think... I agree with your logic, and I think that's a good choice.
Okay.
So then, working our way back up the list, Awkwafina is going to be a very big character.
Yeah.
Which means that she's going to be the biggest character.
Biggest in terms of the performance style?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I feel like that kind of mutes everyone else. We're going to need to be pulling in a little bit, because I think if people try to match her, we're going to have a mistake.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, we still want these to be bright, optimistic, sunny-ish characters.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the stakes are high, so they're not, like, smiling the whole time.
Right.
But...
So, let's work our way back up. Ben Grimm, between...
I'm going to stick with my pitch. It's just Michael Jai White. I'm cutting Michael
between Spawn and the guy from Glow, who would be a better best friend to Awkwafina?
Interesting. Oh... I mean, you phrased that in a way that really supports your pitch.
It really does, doesn't it?
But if I phrased...
How would you phrase it?
Who really gets across the tortured heart of gold and has good comedic timing but knows when to use it just right? I feel like that seems more like Michael Jai White to me. Okay. I hope it's not Jay and I've been saying it wrong this
I think
whole
it's
time.
Jai. I think you're right. What has he done recently, Michael Jai White?
Good question.
Because... If he hasn't, I mean, because he's been in things, because he was in Arrow. He's Ben Turner or Bronze Tiger in Arrow.
I don't watch Arrow.
I did, and I don't know who that is.
He was in several episodes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a recurring character. He's in 8 episodes. I have no idea who Ben Turner / Bronze Tiger is.
Yeah, I don't know. So you're saying it's not memorable.
And then he's like Black Dynamite, which It's a lot more recent than I thought it was.
Oh, well, that's the TV series, the animated series they did.
And then he's Batman Brave and the Bold as Tattooed Man.
I mean, he works pretty constantly.
Yeah,
a lot of voice work, which I think
is great.
would be fitting for someone like Ben Grimm.
Ooh, look at you. I always like going with someone who isn't necessarily like the big brand name, and that's why I like Bashir Salahuddin, because I think he's someone on his way up, and I think it's a cool opportunity for someone. That said, you'd be completely covering his face, so no one would remember that it's him.
That's true.
Okay, let's come back to Ben Grimm.
Okay.
Because for Reed Richards, it's Bill Hader or Krasinski. I'm willing to go with Krasinski.
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly that Bill Hader's not. I think there is a version of Fantastic Four that's a good movie that has Bill Hader in the lead, but I don't think it's this movie.
That's fine. I got nothing against John Krasinski, and I think he's a good choice. Mm-hmm. And I think he's a good choice for all the same reasons that I thought Bill Hader was a good choice.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with that.
Cool.
That said, when we get to Sue Storm, I would still choose Kerry Russell over Constance Wu.
How old is Kerry Russell?
42.
Okay. That's just as close as... That might be a little closer than Constance Wu and Krasinski.
Yeah, she's 42.
Okay, cool. Krasinski's 39, so...
I'm perfectly comfortable with Sue Storm being 3 years older than
yeah, no,
Mr.
I'm not,
Fantastic.
I'm saying that's good. That was closer than I thought. Yeah, I'm fine to go Kerry Russell.
Cool.
I think it's a big mistake, but I'm fine with it. No, it's good. She's great. I love her.
With that in mind, Kerry Russell, John Krasinski, Awkwafina.
Little sister. Maybe. So I'm fine with Michael Jai White. I think that's a really good choice.
I don't disagree.
But maybe there's someone that neither of us are thinking of.
We can come back to it. While we're talking, I am going to tell you who I had for Victor Von Doom, even though Doom is not in this movie.
Sure.
Christoph Waltz.
Oh.
Older, not a... I like him at the idea as being kind of the older established person who gets supplanted by Reed Richards and is kind of always trying to kind of claw his way back in.
I see that.
And then also, because he's from Latveria, Eastern European.
Yeah, you can talk however he wants.
Yeah.
Do you have a Mole Man on there?
No,
How would you feel about sliding Christoph Waltz over to Mole Man position? Because I think it'd be kind of fun.
All right, I'll do it.
I know it's a smaller part than he would usually do.
No, but it lets him be more ridiculous, and I want to see Christoph Waltz be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean...
You feel like you haven't seen that? I feel like Did you see Green Hornet?
I did. Who was he in Green Hornet?
He was the main villain in Green Hornet, wasn't he?
I don't remember. He may have been. It's been so long.
Yeah, it's not too memorable. But
no.
He gets to ham it up.
I just remember them driving around in the front of a car. It's not a good movie.
Yeah. But he hams it up in Django. He hams it up in Inglourious Basterds.
He hams it up, but does he ham it up to the expectation of someone named Mole Man would hang it up?
No, he doesn't. I understand what
ham it up. And so I think that's fun. That's cool. I didn't really cast Galactus or Silver Surfer either because I wasn't sure specifically how we were going to go. I literally just had a list of other villains. Diablo, Wizard, Mole Man, Namor, Annihilus. For Namor, I specifically wrote no. I've never been crazy about Namor.
Yeah, I think he can have an interesting storyline. I think the best storyline you can do with Namor is one that ends up putting Sue in the same position she's been in too many movies.
That's the problem.
Where she's like a tug-of-war object, or has doubts about the team, or falls in love with the prince. Like, all that stuff's boring.
The more interesting storyline is that we've been doing these movies for a while, and all of a sudden Sue Storm gets the 7-year itch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden here's this younger, attractive guy.
We can think on...
But either way, Namor as this crazy dude who lives by himself and is just obsessed with this one woman, not okay. Don't want that in the movie.
Yeah, that's not great. I mean, he is a villain, so it's okay to have something you're uncomfortable with about him. But he's a deposed king. He can command an army of ocean people. Aquaman's going to do it better, so we don't need to worry about it. Is Aquaman going to be good? Aquaman looks actually kind of good.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's all I needed. And then...
Just Aquaman actually looks kind of good.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Have my $15.
Well, I might go to a screening of it. So.
Oh, okay.
And the other... Alicia Masters.
I did not cast for Alicia.
I did.
Who are you thinking?
Judy Reyes.
Who?
She's Carla in Scrubs, as long as I'm on a Scrubs kick.
I like Carla in Scrubs.
Yeah. Judy Reyes has also had a fairly awesome career. Let me pull...
Mistresses or something? What does she do?
She was in that movie, The Slap, which, when I saw the posters, I was convinced it was a comedy, and everyone was like, no. And I was like, but why, though? It's a movie called The Slap. Better be funny. Devious Maids, she was in The Circle. She's in Claws, Succession, One Day at a Time, Search Party. She's in Jane the Virgin.
Well,
yes, Devious Maids, you're right.
I said mistresses, and I was wrong, because I was thinking of Devious Maids, though.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. I have no objection. I think she's great.
Cool.
I do have some ideas for Surfer and Galactus.
Yes, talk to me about that, because specifically for Galactus,
yeah,
I'm even comfortable if Galactus never talks.
I like the... Okay, I don't know. It'll be hard to make Galactus not silly. So I was thinking of someone... I have a pretty strong feeling of who I think should be Galactus, speaking or non. I was, for both Silver Surfer and Galactus, thinking of someone that feels alien.
Okay.
Feels not of this earth. Or
Benedict
at
Cumberbatch.
least can pull that off. Benedict Cumberbatch's face would be great. I was thinking Robin Wright.
Okay.
I think she has an intimidating quality when she turns it on, a kind of foreign, inhuman quality when she turns it on. I think she would be perfect for Galactus.
I agree and I disagree. I think as soon as you make it a person that we recognize, and at this point, and I've used Robin Wright a bunch of times for the show. I love Robin Wright.
Sam hates Robin Wright.
Established here, episode, whatever. I think as soon as it's someone that we recognize, and as soon as we kind of get impressions, I legitimately want Galactus to be something that we cannot comprehend. The problem with the smoke monster is that it's silly.
Right.
But I like the concept of it being something otherworldly. Like, even the Silver Surfer, the Silver Surfer's humanoid. Mm-hmm. I'm on board the Silver Surfer train because it's someone who can be convinced because they are like us.
Yeah.
Galactus, I'm okay with them being human shaped, but at the end of the day, they are not like us. I don't want to hear Galactus speak. I don't want any words that come out of Galactus' mouth diminish Galactus. And I think that if there's any communication, it is communication where the Silver Surfer understood what is said, and he is the herald of Galactus and speaks for Galactus.
Interesting.
And I was 100% serious when we don't see Galactus' face.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a white guy. I don't want it to be a black guy. I don't want it to be a lady. I don't want it to be a dude. I want it to be a god.
Interesting. I'll admit I don't have the visuals of the movie Galactus worked out.
I like the giant armor, just like this giant figure.
Just empty.
But it's like empty space.
No. I feel like it can be harder to connect with that. You know, they did that.
We don't need to connect with him. We connect with the Silver Surfer.
Think of Green Lantern when they did Parallax. Like, that was another example.
Parallax is another smoke monster.
In the movie.
In the movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Parallax is another featureless, godlike thing that doesn't leave enough of an impression. Like, I understand that we want it to be a godlike, unstoppable force.
Right.
But I think a godlike, unstoppable force is scarier if we can see ourselves in it a little bit. Not much, because it's outside of us, but, like, any villain is better when you can empathize the fraction with them.
Okay.
Right? That's been first few generations of Marvel movies. Besides Loki, you couldn't really connect with any of the characters or what they wanted, so they weren't good villains. They figured it out, and Hela, you understand what she wants in Thor Ragnarok, and so she's a better villain. Killmonger, you understand what he wants in Black Panther, so he's a good villain.
Michael Keaton is an amazing villain in Spider-Man.
Right, you get it, right? So I think it's much easier to get a villain's intentions and feel for them a little bit if they have a face.
Okay.
One person I think that pulls off the look really well, who is a white man, is but also is unknown enough that he wouldn't be like, oh, it's Claire Underwood.
Sure.
Is John Carroll Lynch.
Remind me.
John Carroll Lynch. Did you ever see Zodiac? I don't know.
Would
I know you don't like
ever
scary things,
see?
But it's a drama. John Carroll Lynch was the other thing I know. The other things he's known for are also scary things. So you may not know him, but if you look at the lower third of John Carroll Lynch's face, and you look at Galactus's face, it is the same frowny, godlike face. And if you look at what he does, he tends to play characters that are intimidating in a way you can't put your finger on. That they
when he
just
plays
don't
Twisty the Clown?
I haven't seen... was it American Horror Story did that? Or
American Horror Story.
Yeah. And then he did the sci-fi creepypasta show.
Creepypasta show?
Yeah, Channel Zero.
Creepypasta?
Do you know what creepypasta is?
No.
We're so far from Fantastic Four. Creepypasta...
literally pasta, like spaghetti.
No. Not literally.
But that's the word you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Like online urban legends.
Okay.
And I think it picked up the name creepypasta on 4chan or Reddit or something. It was copying and pasting creepy stories. Okay. And so Channel Zero, by all accounts, wonderful. I haven't watched it yet. Each season is a different adaptation of a creepypasta. In any case, this is a guy who's intense and intimidating and looks like Galactus, isn't too known so that he wouldn't be too familiar. I mean, the other option is if you want something that's a little less human.
I still want the giant armor. I still want the ridiculous helmet. I still want all of that.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to lose is, like, the face.
So maybe get an actor who is really good at facial performance work, like mocap work, even with...
So get Andy Serkis?
Someone like Andy Serkis or Doug Jones, who was Silver Surfer.
Right.
And make it a more alien, inhuman, godlike, barely featured face. And so you're casting more for the talent of what they can do than what they can look like.
That I would find that more interesting. I know Doug Jones was in the movie that I just watched, but I would think Doug Jones would be more interesting because you can make him something else.
Yeah. Doug Jones is super talented. I'm happy with Doug Jones as Galactus.
Okay. Let's go with Doug Jones as Galactus.
I'm glad we're still friends.
I didn't say that. We were still friends. Okay. You're assuming.
I'm glad you're still my friend.
Yay. Okay. So I didn't have someone for Silver Surfer, so talk to me about who you had in mind for Silver Surfer.
Lakeith Stanfield.
Okay. Which episodes of my podcast were you listening to where he got used? 7 of them?
Oh, is he used a lot?
Oh, yeah. Lakeith Stanfield's great.
But I also think he has that kind of otherworldly quality to him.
Yeah.
I think he can bring the pain out that Silver Surfer deals with.
You gonna make him shave?
Does he always have a beard?
He often has a beard. He doesn't always. Like, there's an image of him right here without a beard.
Yeah. I think if the paycheck's good enough, he'll shave.
And a superhero movie you think would do it?
If he wants to do it. Yeah.
Lakeith Stanfield, really?
I think so. I think he's
I'm still
weird,
I agree.
distant, strange actor.
I agree with you. The reason why I'm going to talk myself into this is this. I'm still thinking of Silver Surfer as kind of like the blank Doug Jones face that he was in Rise of the Silver Surfer, and I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's super boring.
Right.
And I don't necessarily want someone who has an LCD TV on his belly.
That's such a weird move.
It's so weird.
When he just, like, shows his planet for some reason.
He's a Teletubby.
Yeah. And that's not necessary, but also I understand. And I think there's also something lost, and this is a little like behind the scenes of it, where his, my understanding is Doug Jones was originally going to be doing the motion capture, he was going to be doing the performance, as well as the voice performance. They didn't like what Doug Jones did, and they brought in Morpheus. What was it?
Lawrence Fishburne.
And Lawrence Fishburne's delivery was pretty boring. I mean, beautiful voice, but not emotionally connected to the performance. So I think someone like Lakeith Stanfield can do a really good job of having an emotionally connected performance. I don't know. I think it's more interesting. I have backups if you rejected it. No, I think that's good.
I mean, tell me who your backups were, but I like Lakeith Stanfield.
John Cho was my first backup.
No, I like Lakeith Stanfield more. I like John Cho, but I think he's a good leading man. I don't think he's a very interesting.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he can do the weird that Silver Surfer should be. Mm-hmm. The slightly off.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm good with that.
I think that means we need to go back to Ben Grimm. I mean, we can go with name.
Michael Jai White.
Thank you, Michael Jai White. I just don't think that's quite right.
Yeah.
Like, we need a big guy who hasn't been in a superhero movie yet. He needs to be someone who is grumpy, but a heart of gold. Mm-hmm. We need...
I mean, grumpy but a heart of gold. You jokingly mentioned John Hamm. But John Hamm doesn't always work for me. Sometimes he's perfect, sometimes he's off.
And he's not right for that.
All right, edit out the next 5 minutes of silence.
Yeah.
While we think of...
As I walk over to my DVD cabinet.
Yeah. Heart of gold, ability to play gruff, still lovingly. Not an idiot, but still has some physical stature to him. Uh-huh. A Jason Momoa type. That's how you say his name, right?
Yeah, a Jason Momoa type. You could even say a Vin Diesel type. Mm-hmm. Because Vin Diesel is that sort of person who, like, he plays the grumpy guy, but has a heart of gold and does comedy and likes comic books and weird things all the time.
Yeah.
You want the person who wants to play the thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Vin Diesel is kind of a geeky guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's Groot.
That's true.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, you want someone like Vin Diesel, so something like that. Mm-hmm. So something
so much of what I watch is Marvel-based content.
That's the problem. Me too.
I keep trying to not do MCU.
And like
people.
the person that I have in mind is, all right, let me pull this guy up. It's literally an actor on Legends of Tomorrow, but he is who we want. The actor we want is a dude named Dominic Purcell.
That sounds familiar.
He was in, whatchamacallit, the one where they break out of jail.
Prison Break?
Thank you. And he is Pyro or something in Legends of Tomorrow. I love Legends of Tomorrow. People who listen to this podcast know I love Legends of Tomorrow. And this is a big guy. He's kind of older now. Heart of gold. But he basically is just an asshole. But he takes care of the people around him. He has
a look I like. If he's a good actor and can pull those off, I'm good to go with Dominic Purcell.
He's amazing. I love Dominic Purcell. Like, I love every scene he's in. And they keep like having him do little silly bits here, little silly bits there, but he's great. Like, he started off as a villain on The Flash.
I think I remember him on The Flash.
Because he was paired with Captain Cold. He has the fire gun, Captain Cold has the ice gun, and Dominic Purcell has the fire gun. Yeah. And he's just great. Apparently he's also in Blade, or Blade Trinity. He's Heatwave in Legend of Tomorrow. But
there's a theme.
Yeah, he's good. I like him. Let's go with Dominic Purcell.
Cool. I'm good with that.
So that brings us to writer and director. Now, did you have a writer and a director, or did you have a writer-director?
I had a writer-director.
Okay. So the person that we can't go with is Brad Bird.
I was not planning to do Brad Bird.
Okay.
Tomorrowland disappointed.
Yeah, but I like Brad Bird because he did The Incredibles.
In The Incredibles, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so in that case, let me talk to you about my writers, and then let me talk to you about my director, and then we can kind of jump back and forth.
Sure.
So I had a writing team. The writing team is Olivia Mitch and Gary Ross.
Okay.
They wrote Ocean's 8.
Okay.
Which is a heist movie, but I specifically picked it because it is a heist movie where it's a bunch of people in a room, and the story engine isn't, hey, let's watch these people fight with each other. There might be bickering, but they're not fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, important for a Fantastic Four movie. The first 45 minutes to an hour of Rise of the Silver Surfer is, let's watch these people fight with each other. I hated it.
Yeah.
But I love Ocean's 8 because it's, okay, we get that we're working together, let's be competent, let's be friends.
You loved Ocean's 8? You didn't just like Ocean's 8?
I loved Ocean's 8. I liked Ocean's 8 a lot.
Okay.
I didn't realize I was going to be referencing it as much as I did this episode, and yet here we are. But, I mean, they've written other things. Let me pull up their IMDb page. Okay, Let me start with Olivia Milch. So I guess she hasn't done that much. The Ocean's 8, and then she wrote the screenplay for something called Barbie and something called Queen and Country. A doll living in Barbie land expelled for not being perfect enough.
2020. That's upcoming.
Yeah.
She's busy.
And also, that sounds like a fun concept. I would watch that. And then something called Queen and Country, which is also upcoming, directed by Ridley Scott, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then Gary Ross.
And has this team written together before?
It might be a paper team, or it may have someone did the first draft, someone did the second draft, because Gary Ross wrote Pleasantville.
Oh, okay.
Which makes sense for a 60s era.
Feel.
Yeah. He also wrote Big, he wrote Seabiscuit, but he also wrote The Hunger Games, or was a producer on The Hunger... Yeah, he wrote the screenplay for the first Hunger Games, and so that sort of thing. So I picked them because it's a man and a woman, but he has kind of like the action... Like, I like Ocean's 8, and I like the dynamic between the people, and I think that's what Olivia Milch brought to it, it's like the interpersonal dynamic, and then his background with Pleasantville and action and Hunger Games, I think is the sort of thing that kind of is a mix of both.
Okay. I feel like this is a circumstance where, like, the resume matches, but for me...
You want someone who's a fan of the material.
No, it's not even that. For me, it's that I don't love any of those movies. Those movies, like the first Hunger Games is fine.
Yeah.
Ocean's 8, to me, personally, is pretty good.
I mean, you haven't seen it.
I rented Ocean's 8 for $5. I didn't regret my $5. But
I thought you said you hadn't seen Ocean's 8. I thought you said you watched it over Sam's shoulder on the plane.
No, that was The Spy Who Loved Me, when you were talking about
got it. Yes, got it. All right.
Ocean's 8 is fine, but to me, it's not as funny as I want it. It's not as action-packed as I want it.
Okay.
But I want to hear about your director choice.
My director is Jonathan Goldstein. He wrote Spider-Man Homecoming, he directed Game Night, and he wrote Cloudy with a Chance, and he wrote the second Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
I love Game Night.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies.
Saw Game Night for the first time within the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's great.
At one point on my list of bands, I know we already moved past it, but I did have Jesse Plemons on that list at one point. Who is a fucking great actor.
Yeah, he's great.
Comedy, drama, self-hate. Anyway, sorry.
But Jonathan Goldstein I picked because he kind of has the blend of everything we want. If he wrote Spider-Man Homecoming, that's amazing. He directed Game Night, that's amazing. And he wrote Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, that's fun.
Yeah.
The first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Tell me everything you think about it.
The first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs?
I haven't seen it, but I'm desperate to know.
I'm going to let you borrow this movie. I have it on DVD, and I'm going to hand it to you. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm convinced it's a near-perfect movie.
I just have to write a note down?
It's the two guys. It's... Oh, man. It's your two...
Oh, is it Phil Lord and Chris Miller?
Is it? Yeah.
That's funny, because I was thinking maybe Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who really can nail big set pieces and comedy and action, would be a good writer-director team for this movie we're talking about now.
Weird. That's crazy.
You know what's funny? I have their name written down on this sheet of paper, coincidentally.
Huh.
So...
So what's this note that you just wrote down for yourself?
Well, I had described some of the movies they were in, or that they worked on, that make them good candidates for this movie. I wrote about 21 and 22 Jump Street, which managed to balance their comedy and action in really wonderful ways.
Absolutely.
I talked about how the Lego Movie was big stakes and funny, and often when you look at a comedy action director, they either do one or the other in the moment. It's either like a funny movie, then we're doing an action scene, and the funny movie action scene. Not the case with Lego Movie.
No.
I think it's funny throughout, and the stakes are real.
Agreed.
Even though it's a lunatic world.
Absolutely.
And what I wrote down was Cloudy with Chance, because they directed Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, as you may know.
I do know that.
And I think, I've heard from a dear friend of mine that it's a near perfect movie. And while I haven't seen it myself, he plans to loan it to me. And I could confirm that. I think
Do you have a DVD player for this friend to lend you a...
I do not. No.
None of your laptops have a DVD player?
No.
Huh. Well, it's a good idea. You've used my argument against me, and now I have to go with your idea.
Thank you very much. I think it's the right thing to do for the movie, not for me.
Well, the important thing is that we maintained our friendship.
Okay. It's good to hear. Good to hear you say it.
Fine. All right, so I think that's all of the things.
Yeah.
So let me run down our list. All right, the Fantastic Four movie starring Wizard.
Incorrect.
Fantastic Four. Sue Storm will be played by Kerry Russell. Reed Richards will be played by John Krasinski. Ben Grimm by Dominic Purcell. Johnny Storm will be Awkwafina. Mole Man will be Christoph Waltz. The Silver Surfer will be Lakeith Stanfield, with Galactus being played by Doug Jones. Alicia Masters will be Judy Reyes. Oh, we didn't talk about this. I have a random government representative number 32.
Kyle Chandler.
Who?
What? Sorry.
Who's Kyle Chandler?
Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights.
I had Lena Waithe.
I don't know who this is.
Just the guy that Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
He's the army guy.
Yeah, he is.
It's weird. So I just have like a random person who kind of gets in their way.
It's okay. Lena Waithe is fine.
Okay. Government representative number 32, Lena Waithe. And then other villains for future movies, whatever. And then it will be directed and written by Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Great.
You bastard.
I'd see it.
Yeah, I would watch this movie. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited for the Fantastic Four inclusion into the MCU.
I think it's the only way to do it.
I agree. I think I agree that they kind of need to be their own world and it gets pulled in. Mm-hmm. It's very comic booky. It totally works, and it's something that comic books have been doing for years. Well, we bought out a company. Their universe is now inside our universe.
Right. I
mean, that's how now Shazam, Captain Marvel got pulled in. Like, it was their own universe. It was their own thing.
Yeah, like MCU in general is really good with continuity. And so I don't want to do something where the Fantastic Four have existed for a long time.
Have been there this whole time.
But I also don't want to waste time on an origin story, because their origin story is not a very interesting part of it.
Haven't they referenced Latveria? Like, it's happened in this country, and Latveria.
What about Latveria? I'm sorry.
They've used the word Latveria, and they've used, like, Victor Von Doom's company at some point. I think Victor Von Doom already exists in the MCU, which is good, because the Fantastic Four don't.
Right.
Got it. So, Harry.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much for being a guest on this episode.
Happy to be here.
What would you like to promote? First of all, talk do you have a Twitter, an Instagram, or anything that you would like people to follow you on?
On Twitter and Instagram, my handle is Harry Valentine, like Hairy Valentine. I'm not promoting anything.
Not your improv, your shows.
I'm in a couple improv teams around town. There's Carousel, who we play with. Another one, Melodramatic, play with occasionally. We are an indie team, so we don't have a home base, but you can find us. And we're finishing a movie right now. There's not much to promote. Which is very exciting. With it. Yeah, we made a Mystery Weekend Package, a comedy with Paul Lair and Andrew Duvall. And that's exciting, but there's no announcement to be made there because we're going to be submitting it to festivals.
No, but this episode will come out on the 10th, and so it's going to be having its premiere.
It's going to be having a Friends and Family premiere.
Because it's not a premiere, because a premiere happens at a festival.
That's correct.
It's going to be having a test screening for Friends and Family.
That's right.
But that's exciting, because you're done with the movie.
We're done. Well,
you'll have final notes after the.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
It's good.
I'm excited about it.
Shot it 2 years ago. So
as someone who funded it on Kickstarter, I could not be more excited.
Yeah. You're going to get your reward? Is that all? Do you know what you donated or what you get?
I'm going to get a DVD.
You might not. I don't know if we did DVDs. We might have done digital downloads.
I always pay for DVDs.
Shit. I'll send you a DVD.
Yes. I hate digital downloads. Because the DVD I can put on a shelf and be proud that I own it.
Yeah.
Don't you want me to be proud that I own it?
When we did Zombie Cops, we spent so much money burning or printing and mailing DVDs.
Well, should have fixed that on the Kickstarter. I didn't fund Zombie Cops. Okay. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe I did. Who could say? I don't remember.
We determined that you did not.
Because I think I didn't know you yet.
Right. You got your special thanks for letting us film in the
Yes, I filmed in my garage.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are the special facts about the Harry and Sam relationship that you're now privy to, and I definitely cut them all out of the episode.
Edit that out.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone loves Fantastic Four as much as I do now.
Yes.
I'm sure.
I think they do. This was super fun. If you're interested in finding out more about me, I'm at Sam Gasch, SamGasch on Twitter. And if you like the podcast, please follow us on Twitter at Ideal Remake, or on Instagram at Ideal Remake, or join us on Facebook at Ideal Remake.
Oh, you got them all.
It turns out I did. On Facebook we're Ideal Remake, which is the show, and then we're Ideal Remake Podcast, which is the fan page.
Oh, okay.
You're supposed to have both because of, I don't know, podcast off.
We're done.
Because it's not podcast on, it's podcast off.
God damn it. And we talked for 2 hours, and I didn't come up with anything better than it's podcasting time.
Yes.